Good morning. Hi everyone. It's Holly from Juice Recruitment here for another Instagram Live, and today I'd like to welcome our MD Vicky, who's going to join me today on the live show.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's lovely to be a part of the live chat. I've been watching over the last couple of months and I've been really excited about my debut.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk over our governing body, the REC, release a report on a month-by-month basis which covers what's happening in the UK job market. We're going to cover the south of England and we're just going to talk through some of the facts and stats, and Holly's going to outline some key areas that we felt was really good to cover.
Yeah.
So Holly's going to start off, and then we're going to go over some questions that we've already had emailed over off the back of what we're running through on today's chat.
Great, thanks. So, as Vicky mentioned, it's KPMG and the REC report, and this is for the south of England. So, the key kind of findings that they found off the back of this report is that there's been some steep increases in both temporary and permanent billings. Candidate supplies continue to expand at a softer but still rapid rate, and demand for work is increasing for the first time since February. So, overall, like a really positive outlook, to be honest.
Really positive. And I think one of the things that I was saying to Holly that I loved about this report, give you a visual, is that on the report it shows you a chart, and the chart basically goes back to the job market 2007 to the job market now, 2020. And it's really interesting to see actually, because you see sort of going into 2008, this kind of large V when we hit the recession back in 2008. And this large V kind of carries on for, going into early part of 2010. So actually it shows a real rate of recovery. Then you sort of see the market pick up, and then you see sort of, peaks and troughs in the market, and then you see 2020 when the pandemic hit, and it dropped down in a sharp spike. And that's what it was. It's a sharp spike, because actually then, like Holly's just highlighted, it's a very steep spike on this chart, and it goes straight back up to the market going back, the doors opening, and businesses very much wanting to get back to normal, which was really encouraging to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's not all doom and gloom, like I've said before on my Instagram lives. And I think one area to highlight is great for job hunters. So if you're in a situation where you're looking for work right now, it's a good market to be looking for a job in. There are jobs out there, and we're going to come on to that bit later on today. But I guess that kind of brings us on to the second part of the report, which is about self-appointment. And what we've seen actually from this report is that the steepest increase has happened in permanent placements since December 2018. And that is incredible, really, when you think about the fact that we're in a global pandemic. People are worried about finding a job, and actually we're saying in this report there are jobs out there, and actually there's more jobs out there, or people are being placed in more permanent jobs than they have been in the last couple of years.
Definitely.
So really interesting.
And I feel actually, from looking at the business, in our 6 divisions, it's really interesting to look at the areas that we've seen the most amount of growth. I was only saying to Holly ahead of this chat today, we've seen a 50% increase in creative vacancies coming into the business. So I think what businesses have done is they've looked at ways to diversify and adjust to the ever-changing restrictions of the pandemic. And what they've done is they've looked at ways of standing out online. We've seen so many interesting roles coming through at the moment. And actually, across our Juice Contact division as well, haven't we? We've had volume vacancies called in, and that's actually remained fairly steady for us, hasn't it, on temporary and permanent?
Yeah, I think mainly because there's always a need for temps in kind of these types of climates where the market's maybe a little bit uncertain, and we know that a lot of our clients that we support work with government bodies. They also work with retailers, and a lot of people have been online shopping or possibly had more time to look at the service they're getting from a provider, so utilities, etc. like that. And what we have seen is that those clients have been really in desperate need of having staff being able to answer multiple and volume calls. So we've definitely seen an increase in that area. In one particular area, customer service for sure, we've seen a job vacancy there, so we'll come on to that in a bit, I think, as well.
Yeah, and I feel actually from what we were doing when analysing this report is we almost expected the temporary market to spike, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we've seen an increase in temporary vacancies, but for the permanent placements to be on par with that is actually really encouraging for anybody that's looking for an opportunity at the moment. It shows confidence in the market.
Yeah, very much so. And I think what we're actually seeing as well is that clients are thinking ahead. They're not thinking about the short term and panic buying when it comes to candidates. They do really want to be coming to us and looking for that individual who's going to be adding value, is going to see a career within their business long term. It's not necessarily just about the short term. I think that's also bringing us back onto the staff availability area of the report. So we can see that permanent candidate supply rises on a softer level. So I think when we were maybe back in the midst of the pandemic a few months back, there was obviously an influx, like the doors open, everyone unfortunately was looking for work. Coming from areas like hospitality, where we saw obviously great numbers of redundancies or people not being able to go into work because of the closures that businesses face. And what we have actually seen now is there still are people coming to the market, but it's probably a bit more gradual now. So as we imagine, some of the countries in lockdown, there are still a lot of challenges that the country is facing as a whole, and we probably will see some more redundancies, sadly. However, the positive thing is that actually the staff that are coming to the market have those opportunities that we've been talking about.
Yeah, and I think we've really looked at the people that are looking for roles at the moment. Yes, we have seen a huge increase in people applying. We've almost seen double the applications coming through on the website, and over double the applications coming through for any job adverts. What we found is you've got two different types of individuals that are looking for opportunities at the moment. The individuals that are looking for a short-term fix, so are looking for a job, financial security, and then people that have had that time. We were talking about this, weren't we, Holly? We were talking about the fact that what the pandemic has offered us is time to think about what's really important, time to think about career, where you're going, what you want to achieve, whether your skill set can go into a different industries that have been particularly challenging. You had a lovely lady called Hannah that came in the other day, and what was her background? It was travel, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Hannah actually worked as a flight attendant, and she worked for a very well-known organisation, and we all know that people aren't really going on holiday at the moment because of the restrictions, but also affordability. People are maybe not working, and that has a knock-on effect to the travel industry. We know that many flights have been cancelled, and that was her her future outlook, really. So she wasn't made redundant, but she had to really look at her opportunities. Yeah. Exactly, and I think for her, staying in that industry, it would have been more challenging to find and continue working. So she used her transferable skills. She then took a job working in support work, so she's now going to become a support worker and train to do that. And I think that really touches upon what the government has been saying, is that people really do need to think about how they could find a job maybe outside of what they've been doing if they are facing redundancy. And it just goes to show that actually anybody can do it, even whether you're skilled or unskilled, which is great.
Definitely, and we were looking at the unskilled in the respect of the market that's been most disproportionately affected. 16 to 24-year-olds, and there is obviously the Kickstart scheme now, which we've spoken to some clients who have found it very encouraging, and have started using it within their business. But actually, looking at this market, it's enormous actually, the amount of candidates that are looking. But actually for us, it's a bit like the live chats that you've been doing over the last couple of weeks. It's talking about being persistent in your approach, looking at ways of standing out online, top tips for Zoom interviews. There's lots of things that we can offer candidates that are looking, and we've been doing lots of Zooms, haven't we, across the business to register candidates, so that candidates do feel encouraged when looking for a job, that they're not in it on their own.
Exactly, and that's the key thing. I think the majority of the things that I've been touching upon has been about confidence in yourself, confidence in the market, which we're talking about today. Those jobs are out there for you if you are looking for work, and that's something that you need to be taking away from today. And that's the point of this kind of Instagram live, that we're talking about what's going on in the market from the KPMG and RAC report. We know this is factual information, stats and facts that we can feed back to you as to what's really happening out there. And I think the positive thing is that we're seeing people are taking that kind of leap of faith in a way, coming to us, maybe looking to see what their career options are and transferable skills that they can use.
What was interesting as well, going back to the report, is it talks about the skill sets that are in demand, doesn't it, on temporary and permanent. And obviously we've got areas that we've touched on, so we've got sort of your creative, your digital, your techie sort of computing. We've also looked at accountancy and finance. We've really seen a growth across accountancy and finance. Obviously the contact centre arena with your help desks and customer service and call centre staff, alongside on the temporary side of things, there's been a real peak, obviously, in certain areas such as blue collar.
Yeah, so unsurprisingly, we've seen blue collar an area of increase in terms of short supply of staff, but also there are things like legal. We've seen some roles actually recently here that have come from a legal sort of industry, and that is creating opportunities actually because of Brexit, one of them that we're working on at the moment. So again, I know Brexit's not something we've been talking about for a long time, which is kind of nice, but it still exists, and there are things going on outside of this COVID situation that clients are thinking about.
And also clients are, going back to what we were discussing earlier on about clients being reactive to almost the needs of the ever-changing restrictions of the pandemic. We've had some really interesting roles coming into the business, haven't we?
Yeah. So we've had one for a COVID warden, and so this is really an interesting.
So what's a COVID warden?
So a COVID warden basically is going to be someone who is, I guess, appointed to look after a client and their staff. So the point is this person is going to be
a large corporate, is it?
Yeah, it's a large corporate. So I imagine probably large ones. Local authorities have been doing quite a lot of this as well, because they're responsible for public spaces and things like that. But the client that we're supporting in this particular role is going to be looking for someone to work across 3 different sites. So it involves a bit of travel, and it really requires someone who is confident in speaking to people about
social distancing
and make sure they're wearing their masks, and really just the COVID rules, really.
And what kind of skill set do you have to have? What kind of background are we looking for? A traffic warden, or looking for somebody?
It could work for a traffic warden, to be honest. It's that type of skill set. So they're going to have to be confident in being able to approach and have an authority to ask someone to put a mask on. Also, I think it's more challenging, maybe not just dealing with the public. You're dealing with employees for a client. So that person may be talking to. It could be a call agent. It could also be a director that you might be speaking to say you need to be kind of sticking to the 2 metre distance or 1+ rule, depending on where you are.
So you need somebody with a fairly unflappable nature.
Yeah, it's definitely unflappable. I think confident, and we're ideally looking for someone who comes from either a first aid or sort of health and safety background, just to give them a little bit more understanding of kind of what the requirements are in this role. But full training will be provided.
Well, if you're watching and you're interested in being a COVID warden, do they need to apply directly to you, Holly?
So they can apply on the website. We're going to have this up later on today, later on this morning actually, and the pay rate is nice. It's like £15 an hour.
Amazing.
So this is not to be sniffed at as being kind of a sort of non-essential role. And I think actually more and more clients are looking at this as an option to support their business, because clients don't want to be fined. There are fines going out now, aren't there, from the government if social distancing is not adhered to. So,
and that leads us on quite nicely back into the report. If we're looking at the pay pressures and actually the pay averages in the market at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So interestingly, the report was talking about the fact that overall in the south of England, salaries are still declining at the moment, which I think is understandable given the fact that a lot of our clients are working to probably stricter budgets that they would normally be doing at this time of year. There are some still seasonal requirements on a temporary basis, which I think probably don't actually get affected by this. But what we're seeing is this report does talk about the south of England, and in the southwest, we're actually seeing that things are actually much more positive.
Yeah, one of the things that we have found, and again, we were talking about this ahead of today's chat, is that there are a lot of candidates out there that are willing to take, salary drops, aren't there? And actually we've placed a number of candidates that have maybe taken a salary drop with a client putting a review in place for 3-6 months' time, with incentives being put in place, with certain job promotions being put in place. So the market at the moment, although it's buoyant, it's moving, isn't it? It's a very active market.
Yeah, very much so. And I would probably just kind of mirror what you're saying in terms of talking to candidates and clients actually. So we're seeing that the majority of clients are offering the same site they were offering a year ago if they're re-recruiting or looking for a similar role to place in their business right now. I think that clients are maybe looking to use the Kickstart scheme, so that is a slightly different sort of proposition, and I covered that last week on my Instagram live. But I think that the overall feeling is that clients want to ensure that the people they're getting in their kind of vacancy or in their kind of placement is that they are going to be valued. They're not just kind of taking the mick when it comes to trying to afford someone over qualified for what they actually want to pay a decent salary for. So I think that's the key thing.
One of the conversations that we've had with clients at the moment is that concern of when they are appointing people that maybe are looking at taking a salary cut, or maybe have come from being in a highly skilled role to maybe taking a drop in the opportunity. are they going to stay, past the pandemic? Are we going to be looking at, if we go back to the recession that we had back in 2008, one of the things that we found was that the market, after sort of 6 months to a year after we'd recovered, we had this movement again in the market of people then looking at other opportunities. And will we have that again? The likelihood is we will have a lot of movement back in the market. And although people are feeling encouraged that they can find good talent at a slightly cheaper cost, is that going to be for the long run?
Yeah, and I think that definitely comes back to what we're saying to clients, actually, if they are looking potentially to, look to have someone who's overly skilled for a role, but maybe that kind of salary is not matching the skill set. As an agency, we pride ourselves on being honest and, kind of upfront and kind of, I guess, giving a market overview to our clients. So we're always ensuring that actually if you are taking a job via Juice Recruitment, is that salary ideally is going to be competitive, and we're advising our clients that they need to remain sort of in that place really in a competitive market. So,
definitely.
yeah.
And then if we go back to the report and look at the overall regional comparison, what is it telling us?
So overall, the statistics is that actually the average weekly earnings for an individual across the south of the UK is actually increased by 3%, which is actually quite well. It's really positive actually. I was quite surprised to read that. My kind of thought process would be that it actually been on a slight decline given the current circumstances. But so a 3% increase year on year over the second quarter of 2020. And what was even more interesting is actually in the southwest, we've been seeing that the southwest region is the 8th highest weekly earning region. So again, the southwest is probably overperforming a lot of other areas, which again is really positive.
Yeah, and what we have noticed as well from this report is that actually temporary rates are actually very competitive. Temporary rates at the moment are a lot higher, aren't they, than what we've had previously?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that comes back to the fact that clients can value what a temp brings to their business, and you are going to be coming in a short period of time to support them either with a heavy workload, someone might be off sick, there could be a particular project, but clients are really valuing those people coming into the business right now.
Definitely, and we've actually just launched in the business almost like a COVID secure service that we're offering our clients because of the enormous amount of candidates that are currently looking and available and looking for temporary work and open to all different types of opportunities. Yeah. We currently have a waiting list of 20 plus candidates that are available as an example within the contact centre arena. So if clients are dealing with sickness, and they're dealing with people that are concerned about being in the office and they're worrying about staff shortage, then actually for us, it's a way of offering that client that security that business, when it can, will go on as normal.
Yeah, very much so, and I think clients, whether they're working from home with their staff remotely or they are actually able to work in the offices, all our clients are ensuring that all their offices and working from home are either health and safety and COVID secure. So I think everyone's on board with that. So fingers crossed in the southwest we'll be able to remain on this basis where we're not in a full lockdown and we can continue to go to work and we can continue to go to retail shops and dinner and things like that, which I think that's hopefully, fingers crossed, that will be what happens.
Yeah, so. Definitely. I think overall then, with reference to the overall report, it's really positive. I think if anything it installs real confidence that the market is active, that businesses are looking to get back to business. And I know, with the up and coming winter months, there will be struggles. We can already see that at the moment. We've got staff that are based over the bridge in Wales. We know that there are restrictions happening everywhere. Yeah. Different parts of the UK is in different tier systems at the moment. So we know that there will be further challenges. I think it's about remembering, looking at the stats and remembering actually that, when the doors do open and we can get back to business, I think everybody's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet in the respect that we all want things to go back to some form of normal.
Please, yes. That would be nice. So it's been great. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really great. I think we've covered some really key points regarding the report, and hopefully we've covered a lot of information that is useful for you watching. Next week I'm going to be back doing a hot job report. So again, a little bit more on the market overview for the southwest region.